Was meant to be a public hearing has descended into a farce. Anyone who was deemed to be opposition was deprived the mic. They specifically said amubate mic, meaning that you won't touch the mic. In other words, ZANU-PF wanted only the people that it had bussed in to speak. We weren't given the opportunity to voice our opposition to the bill. As soon as the mic came to our bay, ZANU-PF thugs came and started beating us up and saying that you're not allowed to touch the mic. Zimbabweans are extremely concerned at the proposed constitutional amendments. We all know that when the constitution was enacted in 2013, it was to prevent another Mugabe for posterity, to prevent the extension of presidential term limits, a president who wants to rule ad infinitum for a long time without any elections. We are extremely concerned at the fact that they want to take away people's right to vote, especially for the president. We're concerned that presidential term limits are going to be extended to 7 years. We're concerned that more power is going to be concentrated in the presidency, who's going to be allowed to pick judges. All of that is extremely problematic. And if they believe that the public supports them, they must expose this to a referendum. They're banning a referendum because they know that the people aren't in support of what they're trying to do.
When senior soldiers like Vice Marshal Muchena take the position that he has taken, it must not be dismissed lightly. He is representing an institution. He is speaking for an institution. The position of an Air Vice Marshal is a serious position in any army. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see the signs of another implosion. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see the telltale signs of another unlawful, precipitous moment in this country. But we don't want blood to be shed in this country, because everyone knows that the implosion next time around will not be seamless like November 2017. It's going to be bloody. So we are asking ZANU-PF and President Mnangagwa to allow for a soft landing for Zimbabwe by simply withdrawing this constitutional bill. If you wanted to use 2030, there are ways and means of achieving it which are peaceful and constitutional, which avoids the calamity and the poison and the toxicity that is Constitutional Amendment number 3 of 2026. And that bill is unpopular in ZANU-PF. It is in fact ultra-virus the resolutions of ZANU-PF itself in October 2024 in Bulawayo and in October 18 in Mutare. Because resolution of number 1 in Bulawayo simply says the president must govern until 2030. That's all it said. So where are these things around traditional leaders coming from? Where is this toxic thing that the president now has to be elected from parliament coming from? Where is this thing that the gender commission must now go? Where is this thing that ZEC must now be demoted into a little functional? Where are all these things coming from? This is why Zimbabweans are extremely angry. They're angry at the malice of ZANU-PF. They're angry at the cruelty of ZANU-PF. They're angry at the lack of wisdom of ZANU-PF, because they are blindly pushing us into an implosion. And we are tired. This country can't survive on a matrix that every 5 years there's a crisis. Every 5 years there's a crisis. So we are state in permanent crisis that can enjoy 4 or 5 years of peace, but there's an implosion. And that's why we are underdeveloped. That's why we're underdeveloped, because all these things have got an implication on your GDP. All these things have got an implication on the country's development. So unfortunately, politics is putting a premium on the country's development. If we didn't have toxic politics, things like Gukura Hundi, things like the violence of 2008, things like these unconstitutional amendments, this economy would easily be a $200 billion economy. Now we struggle at around $20-25 billion. Forget about their rigged GDP of $54 billion. It's unfortunate. We're paying a price for 45 years of toxic predatory politics, extractive politics. And it's time to say enough is enough.
Mr. Mawarire, very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Good evening.
Now, what we witnessed in Harare earlier on today, I mean, critics being blocked, heckled, and even assaulted, does this fundamentally invalidate the legitimacy of the public consultation process?
It adds to a litany of issues that invalidate the process. If you look at the process itself, the way it was promulgated, It was started by the executive. It was started by cabinet, chaired by the president, and the president is one of the beneficiaries of the changes that are being proffered, especially when it comes to the president, the change the change of term from 5 years to 7 years. He is going to be a beneficiary of those changes. So there is a litany of irregularities that invalidate the process. But the current violence that we've seen actually puts the last nail in the coffin of this process. Because when the violence is being done by members of the Central Committee of ZANU-PF, it means that the violence is coming right from the highest decision-making board of the party, because the person who assaulted lawyer Doug Coulthard is a well-known Central Committee member of ZANU-PF, Lakmo Tinashe. So the violence is coming from ZANU-PF. We have seen not only violence, but we have also seen systematic expunging of voices that are contrary to what the regime wants. We have seen during these consultative meetings when citizens want to give background to why they are saying no to the bill. The mics are muted, either muted, taken away from them, and some are even ordered to sit down. There is a particular case of one such adult male who wanted to give background that the liberation struggle in Zimbabwe was fought for one man, one vote. Therefore, the change of system from directly electing the president to having the president elected by 210 directly elected MPs.
Okay, fair
and
point.
100.
Fair point, but can a constitutional amendment claim, democratic credibility when dissenting voices are systematically excluded or intimidated?
It can't. Certainly it can't. It can't, especially when there are growing voices within the country that in order for us to have a democratic process, because actually on this instance, you have Parliament putting in 64 meetings, the whole country, to gather views from 17 million people. When the Constitution was done, this Constitution was done in 2013, there were more than 4,000 consultative meetings that were held. In Zimbabwe, we have 1,970 districts. And in each district, there's an average of 4 to 5 wards. And those 4 to 5 wards normally constitute a polling station. And that polling station per ward has about 1,500 people. Yeah. So if you are saying in a country where you have 1,970 wards, you are only having 64 centers, it actually then brews the kind of situation that we have seen in Harare, where the whole of Harare is converged in the city sports center, which accommodates less than 5,000 people.
Can I come in there? We also had the elections watchdog say the pre-hearing environment had already raised concerns, citing administrative and legal challenges that affected civic participation, and the assault on figures like David Coulthard signals a very dangerous escalation. Are we now at a point where we're witnessing the normalization of political violence in civic spaces? And if so, how does this climate affect the ordinary citizens who may want to oppose the bill but fear retaliation?
I think what we are seeing is what some of us have already been saying, that the president, the current president, is the architect of violence in Zimbabwe. He has admitted on his own that he was responsible for the June 2008 election violence, which discredited the election in that year and led to the government of national unity. He came out boasting that after they realized that ZANU-PF had not garnered 50+1 votes, he then coordinated the security sector to embark on a campaign which was very violent. And this is the president who is in State House now. He is the same person who led the massacres of 20,000 predominantly Ndebele-speaking Zimbabweans.
Mr. Mawarire, we're out of time, unfortunately, but just a quick question.
1987 disturbances.
Yeah. Just a quick question.
So,
now, hang on a second. Can I come in there? Now, if the Constitution, the supreme expression of the people's will, is reshaped in an environment of fear and exclusion, whose will does it ultimately represent then?
It's the will of the president. It's the will of the president and a cabal that is around him that has been looting national coffers. And those are the people that are behind this bill. This bill did not come from the people. The bill came from Jonathan Moyo, whom they hired, Jonathan Moyo, and a South African-based Zimbabwean-led political consultants company called Shikamu. Those are the originators of the bill. The bill is not coming from the people of Zimbabwe, because if it was coming from the people of Zimbabwe, then there was no need to silence the people to speak on a bill that is coming from them. So the violence that we are seeing is evidence that this is a bill that is being foisted on the Zimbabwean people by an unelectable president. Because even if you look at some of the provisions of the bill, they are meant to take away the people from the process of electing the president of the country,
all right,
the holder of the highest office on the land.
All right, Mr. Mawarire, thank you so much.
Directly electing the president.
Mr. Mawarire, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate your time.
You are promoting mobocracy instead of democracy.
Many thanks to political...
Ignoring all other processes that must be there. And you know the environment you're dealing with is politically volatile.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Very politically volatile.
Okay.
And you put your head in there and you want to become a martyr.
Okay.
This is not necessary. So even if we can look at the arrest of BT without mixing my words, you may find that what the community is saying, the society is saying about his arrest, and the reason of which he is arrested, I always find that to be very interesting. So maybe he did not follow the procedures of convening a meeting vis-a-vis him being arrested for political activism. So for me, I don't get involved in those things. But don't be reckless. There's one man who is very smart in this country. One man who is very smart, who has never been arrested.
You want to which one?
Shamis. Knows how to play his cards. He knows when the police are too close and how to go far. And he has managed to wiggle his way around those political terrains. Maybe he's smarter than all of them.
Okay.
But when you look at the Sekalas, you look at the BTs, you look at the Madukus and etc., who just go there with their heads into the pot and they get clobbered and etc. Is it really necessary? This is the beauty of democracy.
We're talking about
when your individuality and your belief in national politics and national, nationalization, that's growth.
Nationalism, yeah.
That's growth.
Yeah.
You must appreciate that's how people grow in a democratic environment.
So we don't need to copy countries like Rwanda, which had to go through this, similar experiences through referendums or whatever. If the parliament allows us some space to make that amendment bill, we should just adopt it without going through.
My young man, there's one thing you must agree on.
Yes.
It is that when wives and women start comparing their husbands to other husbands next door, you must know that marriage is already in trouble.
Yeah,
when a boyfriend is being told by the girlfriend, "Aufanani nana ningi," because what I am and what you are saying you are comparing me to are two separate things. You cannot say you want to be with me, yet you're comparing me to someone else.
Okay.
We put and use these examples.
Okay.
Not that we should go and copy these examples. But so we must learn from these examples so that we can create something new for us. So in Zimbabwe, we don't even need to worry about China. What about Russia? We have a very unique politics in Zimbabwe. And for your own information, I'll tell you this on your face today. A very unique politics in Zimbabwe, which is way ahead of this world and beyond. We are one of the only countries in the world that has been able to beat the colonialist, remove him from our land, and create a land redistribution program that we've not even started to talk about very seriously.
Oh, yes.
Because right now it's only feeding the top side. And it has not been able to cascade itself.
We'll talk about land. One of these days we'll talk about
cascade itself. But the beautiful part is that we now have. We now have land. I know the South Africans and other communities are mocking us. You know, imagine you're holding a rough diamond in your hand and say, I have a diamond. And say, hey, you're just holding a stone. Hey, throw it away. Since you say you're holding a stone, why are you still poor? You say you have the land in your hands. Why are you still not having food? Hey, but I have. I have a diamond. You must wait until this diamond has been cut.
Okay.
Then let's see who laughs last.
Okay.
The concept that Zimbabwe now has land cannot go back to back with short-term political positions and political elections.
Okay.
We need a much longer term process that can safeguard, or else put in a young politician right now, a young one, who wants money from America and from Europe, like now. For interest sake. And by the way, when you decide to do political office, you no longer belong to yourself, you belong to the public. So I'm free to use politicians as examples. Let's put Chamisa as president tomorrow. I can tell you from my sleep, the British Parliament will be phoning him in the morning. The Americans will be phoning him in the morning. How much do you want? So that we can bring the white people back and remove the black people from their farms. Simple.
Okay.
We will help to build the bridges that you want. We'll give you money for infrastructure. We'll build the hospitals. The people will be happy.
Okay.
We will manage the people. You just give us what we want. We'll give you the money to develop.
Well, that brings me to a question. We'll talk about this thing some other time. It's deep. It's hot.
But I don't want,
hearing you.
Again, I don't want you to keep on running with the issues. I want when you bite it.
I'm hearing you.
Bite it.
I'm hearing you. Let me come with a counter question. With a follow-up question. There are some young people who are less than 35 who were not there in 2013 when this constitution was voted or came into existence. This 2013 constitution. Won't they feel left out if the amendment just happens without a referendum? Or does it also mean, second question again, does it also mean that they have been locked out of power if we extend the presidential limit?
You lost your marbles in 1980. You were not there. Problem number one. So we had a constitution that was there, which is Obro, and the rest of the team from the Lancaster Agreement put on. We have no problem right now as a young person referring to the amendment of the constitution in 2013. But you are making noise about the amendments in 2026. You were not there in 1980.
Okay.
2013, you were still in high school. But changes happened.
Okay.
2026, you are in opposition politics. Change is happening. You have been absent. Young people have been absent from where power has been discussed all along.
Okay.
Had you been involved in mainstream alternative politics, within ruling party politics, being the voice of reason, while you are holding the instruments of transformation. You're not listening to me, man. It's one thing.
You want me to clip my hands? I'm hearing
It's one thing to have an opposition mentality where you're making noise from outside and you're making no changes from where you are. It's another thing to bring your ideas into the pot where conversation of how the meat must be cut. And you are there as young people.
Okay. You can't talk about meat when you're outside.
You left the old people to sit by themselves. Now they're making changes. And you're not there.
You're crying foul.
You're crying foul, but the door has been opened.
I want you to now, Kanya. Now let's go to hits. We have heard you.
You have 2 minutes left. I must run.
Yeah. But now I want you to just let's go into the hits. One statement. Is power always about returning to the people? 2 statements.
Whoever wants power wants to abuse us. For love can get the same job done.
Okay. In China, long-term leadership is seen as strength. In many democracies, frequent elections are seen as protection. Which idea better protects the people? And where should Zimbabweans stand?
Democracy is entertainment for the poor. Development changes a nation.
As a Pan-African thinker, how do you read this moment? Is Africa moving forward stronger, more stable systems, or toward systems where power is more controlled and less accountable?
PCD, permanent election disorder. Permanent campaign disorder.
Okay.
We need to change to development.
Okay. Can Africa build its own model that balances stability, development and real democracy, or we are repeating the same patterns under new language?
We build our ruins without democracy. Looking to the past, we can see the future.
And finally, if you had the power to rewrite this bill, what is the one principle you would protect above all else, and why?
Land must constantly be owned by the people, because politicians will abuse it with business people.
Thank you, Mnganya, for the powerful